I didn't need your pity. I needed one chance, Mark said to the CEO, his voice calm but unwavering. Early that morning, Mark walked Leah to school. On the way, he stopped at a small food truck. He bought one breakfast sandwich. Leah smiled as she took the warm paper bag. "What about you, Dad?" Mark lifted his coffee and smiled. "I'm not hungry." She believed him. What she never knew was that he didn't have enough money for 2 breakfasts. Before she ran toward the school entrance, Mark adjusted the strap of his worn leather folder. After school, everything is going to change. Today was his final interview. If this one failed, he had no idea how he would keep their small apartment. Apex Solutions occupied 30 floors of polished glass overlooking the city. Everything inside looked expensive. Bright sunlight poured through the enormous windows. Employees walked confidently through spotless hallways. Mark adjusted the sleeves of his only suit. It had been tailored more than 10 years ago. The fabric was beginning to fade. Still, it was all he had. A receptionist led him into the conference room. 3 senior managers waited behind a long table. No one smiled. The interview began politely. Questions about logistics, operations, budgets, leadership. Mark answered calmly. Years ago, he had supervised more than 100 employees. He knew exactly how to manage people. Then one manager reached the last page of his resume. He frowned. "So," he said slowly, "you haven't worked for almost 5 years." Mark nodded. "I raised my daughter." The room became quiet. Another manager leaned back. "So you chose babysitting over your career?" A few smiles appeared around the table. Mark stayed calm. "I chose my family." The third manager laughed softly. "That's admirable." He paused. "But companies hire professionals, not full-time fathers." Silence. Mark looked from one face to another. None of them seemed embarrassed. One of them continued. "How do we know you still remember how business works?" Mark folded his hands. "Because leadership doesn't disappear." "No? No." He took a slow breath. "Every morning I solved problems. Every night I made impossible choices. I learned patience. I learned responsibility. I learned how to stay calm when everything around me was falling apart." He looked directly at the panel. "And being a father," he said firmly, "is the only job where failure isn't an option." Nobody answered. One manager simply closed the folder. "I think we're finished." Mark understood. They had already made their decision. He stood, thanked them for their time, walked toward the door. Before leaving, he turned once more. "I came here looking for work." He looked around the room. "I didn't expect respect, but I hoped I'd find it." The door closed behind him. If you've ever been judged without anyone knowing your full story, leave a like and subscribe, because what happens next changes everything. Outside, warm sunlight had disappeared. Dark clouds rolled across the city. Mark's phone vibrated. The school's number. His heart immediately tightened. He answered. "Mr. Carter?" The principal sounded uncomfortable. "I'm sorry to call again. We still haven't received payment for Leah's academic program. We've delayed it twice already." Mark closed his eyes. "I understand. If nothing changes by Friday, we'll have to remove her from the program." "I understand." The call ended. For several seconds, he simply stood there. Cars passed, people hurried by. Nobody noticed the man whose entire world had just become a little smaller. He looked across the street. A warehouse displayed a handwritten sign, "Help Wanted." Without thinking, Mark crossed the road. He would take anything that let his daughter stay in school. Mark stepped inside the warehouse. The supervisor barely glanced at him. "Experience? I've managed people." "We need someone to carry boxes." "I can do that." The man looked him up and down. "We filled the last position 5 minutes ago." Mark nodded once. "Thank you." He turned away. Another door had just closed. At that exact moment, a black sedan stopped beside the curb. A woman stepped out before the driver could open the door. She walked quickly. "Mark!" He kept walking. "Mark, please." He finally turned. She extended her hand. "I'm Victoria. I know who you are. The CEO of Apex Solutions." She looked genuinely ashamed. What happened in that interview should never have happened. They don't represent my company. Mark gave a tired smile. They represented it well enough. I came to offer you the position. He shook his head. No. Victoria blinked. No? I don't want charity. This isn't charity. It feels like it. She stepped closer. I watched your interview. I saw something my managers completely missed. You saw a man they embarrassed. I saw a leader. Mark looked away. Today your company told me I wasn't worth respecting. His voice stayed calm. Why would I dedicate my life to people who believe dignity is optional? For the first time in years, Victoria had no answer. Mark walked away. She stood there watching him disappear. She realized something painful. He hadn't rejected the job. He had rejected everything her company had become. Back at Apex Solutions, the atmosphere inside felt completely different. Victoria entered the executive conference room. Nobody spoke. She placed the interview recording on the large screen. Every sarcastic smile, every dismissive remark, every laugh. She let them watch all of it. When the video ended, the room remained silent. Finally, she spoke. I founded this company because I wanted good people to succeed. She looked at each manager. You turned it into a place where decent people are humiliated. One manager tried to explain. We were only evaluating confidence. Victoria interrupted him. No. You were measuring ego and confusing it with leadership. She slid 3 envelopes across the table. Effective immediately. You're all dismissed. Nobody argued. Nobody could. If you're still watching, thank you. Stories like this remind us that respect is earned through character, not titles. Now, let's finish Mark's story. The following morning, Victoria drove herself to Mark's apartment. It was a small brick building with peeling paint. Leah was leaving for school. She smiled politely. Good morning. Victoria smiled back. You must be Leah. Mark opened the door. His expression immediately hardened. I already gave you my answer. I know. Victoria nodded. So I changed the offer. She handed him a folder. Mark opened it. His eyes stopped moving. Chief Operating Officer, he looked up. This has to be a mistake. It isn't. I don't understand. Victoria smiled softly. My managers hire resumes. I hire people. You've managed companies. You've survived loss. You raised an incredible daughter. If someone can lead a family through that, they can lead this company. Mark stayed silent. Leah looked between them. Quietly, she whispered, Dad, I think Mom would tell you to try. Those words broke something inside him. For the first time since losing his wife, he allowed himself to believe life could begin again. 3 weeks later, Mark stood before hundreds of employees. The same building, the same lobby, the same people. Only this time, everyone stood as he entered. He looked around the room. I don't want anyone here to fear making mistakes. He paused. But I never want anyone to fear being treated without respect. A company grows because of its people, never because of someone's title. The room erupted into applause. Victoria smiled quietly from the back. She knew she hadn't simply hired an executive. She had saved the soul of her company. That afternoon, Mark picked Leah up from school. She ran toward him smiling. Then she noticed the company car waiting nearby. Her eyes grew wide. You got the job? Mark laughed. I got something better. What? They believed in me. Leah hugged him tightly. I never stopped believing. Mark looked toward the bright afternoon sky. Sometimes life doesn't change because someone gives you a chance. Sometimes it changes because one person finally sees the value that was always there. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that your hardest years never define your true worth. Sometimes all it takes is one person brave enough to see your heart before your resume.